Finally, in July 1987, Michael Jackson's Bad was released to the public. If every artist on the planet envied the record breaking success of Thriller, surely none of them wanted to be in Michael Jackson's biggest winnings when he tries to follow up with a new record. That was a pleasing offering and probably would have been considered first rate if it didn't have the dubious distinction of having to follow up not only Thriller but also the masterful Off the Wall. Ironically, in trying to lead themselves out of the woods, Michael and Quincy Jones followed the Thriller formula too closely. Songs like The Way You Make Me Feel and Another Part of Me were dance floor marvels, but the pseudo romance of Liberian Girl, the album's answer to Thriller's Lady in My Life, didn't work as well, nor could Dirty Diana, the production's appointed rock song, featuring Steve Stevens, former Billy Idol guitarist, hold a candle to the more convincing Beat It. The problem with Bad, critics argue, was that unlike Off the Wall and Thriller, it offered truly few memorable songs. Michael wrote most of Bad himself, perhaps propelled by his newfound interest in music publishing and the millions in songwriting royalties he garnered from songs he wrote from the last two albums. Raw Temperament, whose talents helped make Off the Wall and Thriller such outstanding albums, was not represented. The album's most intriguing moment is the reflective Man in the Mirror, written not by Michael but by Sadia Garrett and Glenn Ballard. Having gospel stars Andre Crouch and the Winans singing the track seemed a weak attempt to musically endear Michael to a black audience. However, it was the album's title track that came under the most fire from the black music community because it seemed that it should have been the easiest thing for Michael to pull off. Michael was black, his critics reasoned. He began with Motown. He's a funky dancer. Vocally, his roots are stepped, at least to some extent, and gossip is bad the funkiest, the blackest he could get. At best, noted most critics, Bad was a lightweight attempt at serious black music. The band video was directed by Martin Scorsese at Quincy Jones's suggestion. Michael was unfamiliar with Scorsese's work, having seen only one film he directed, New York, New York. He had wanted George Lucas or Steven Spielberg to direct the video. However, at this time, Frank Delay was trying to toughen Michael's Peter Pan image to and felt that another Spielberg style fantasy would be counterproductive. Street music, particularly the rap and hip hop genres, have begun to dictate pop music and fashion. As a result, Frank thought it would be beneficial for Michael to get back to basics. He believed that image of a street tough cat will serve his client well. From the start, there were problems on the set, especially when Michael tried to tell Scorsese how to direct the video. According to a friend of Scorsese's, the filming of Bad was a nightmare. Scorsese has said that the cost of production went two or three times over budget, reaching about $2 million. However, Scorsese had made no negative comments about Michael and says he found him to be sympathetic, sweet, and open. The Bad script, written by novelist Richard Price, was inspired by the story of Edmund Perry, a Harlem youth who was educated at a prep school and was shot to death by a New York plainclothes policeman who claimed he tried to mug him. What began as a good idea, an attempt to recapture the rebellious spirit of Beat It, probably Jackson's most important video, ended up an ill-convenience, albeit entertaining parody. Michael loves West Side Story, said dancer Casper, who danced in the bad video. He had us watch the film one night. He sat on the bed, and we dancers, me, Jeffrey, Danielle, Greg Bart, and some others, were sprawled all about in a hotel room. He had us watch some scenes, and then he saw something he liked. He lighted up. Oh, did you see that? Did you feel that? He said. That was the attitude he said he wanted in the video. West Side Story. The video story was about a lonely, sheltered school kid constantly badgered by peer pressure and neighborhood street tug. The youngster transforms himself into a bold, avenging Hellraiser. It all goes already for the viewer, however, because of Michael's ridiculous looking outfit. Clad in black boots with silver heels and buckles, a leather jacket with zippers, and more zippers. Amel set a wristband and a wide belt with silver studs and chains. Michael was slightly overdressed for the ghetto. The video's debut produced a cynical reaction. Radio stations and newspapers held contests to see who could truly correctly guess how many buckles were on the costume. The Los Angeles Times, for instance, was delivered with responses from readers. There's one buckle no one will ever detect as located at the back of his head to put the flesh snugly over his ever increasing new features. The buckles are part of the continuing treatment he is undergoing to alter his appearance of that of Liz Taylor as she looked in National Velvet. 66 buckles left over from his oxygen gizmo. More than the buckles, Michael's concept of what really is bad isn't tough and streetwise, seemed distorted and caricatured. He shouted, he stomped his feet, he flipped his fingers, and shook his groin. He tugged at his crotch repeatedly. This is what Michael sees from the tinted window of his limousine. Michael may have been a little overdressed for an urban subway rider, but the surrounding players and dancers certainly looked the part. However, it was difficult to imagine their being so quick to follow anyone, black or white, who looked as effeminate as Michael did in this video. There was something disconcerting about Michael, wearing more pancake makeup than Joan Crawford ever did and flying Kirk Douglas's cleft chin. Shrinking at a group of tough black gang members, you ain't nothing, the viewer couldn't help but think. This boy is going to get hurt. As one observer noted in Michael Jackson's loathsome conception of the black experience, you're either a criminal stereotype or one of the beautiful people. The original photograph intended for the cover of the Bat album was a close up of Michael's heavily made up face superimposed with black floral lace. Walter Yukadev, president of CBS Records, purposely phoned Frank DeLu and sell the feminine looking picture. Look, this cover sucks. The photo eventually used Michael in a tough guy with fists clenching at his side pose, wearing his leather outfit from the bad video, was taken as an afterthought during a 15-minute break while shooting the video. Michael's first single from Bad, I Just Can't Stop Loving You, was released worldwide on July 27th, 1987, and went straight to number one in America and in the same position in the UK after just 2 weeks. Then Michael's Bad album debuted at number one in the Billboard charts, an amazing feat proving that even when Michael does wrong, he can do no wrong. The album received generally lukewarm reviews, but that didn't matter either. We win, Frank Delay said. We're into winning. The second single, Bad, went to number one in America, Britain, and countries around the world. In the UK, the album was even number one for 5 weeks and remained in the charts for an amazing 109 weeks. It sold 350,000 copies in 5 days, the first time that ever happened in Britain for any artist. Michael had a head in his hands with the Bat album, but certainly nothing as big as Thriller. However, could it ever attain Thriller status? Is it enough that Michael managed to such a feat once in his amazing lifetime? In September 1987, the month his Bat tour kicked off in Tokyo, People published a cover story of Michael with the headline Michael Jackson, he's black, he's bad, is this guy weird or what? Apparently, such coverage was what the Elephant Man hat wrought. Coulter Durkee, the writer of the future, explained that the public's perception of Michael Jackson has shifted from "here's a really interesting guy" to "here's a guy I don't understand anymore." Durkee listened to add, however, that's precisely why people continue writing about him. Of course, Michael had good reason to be unhappy with the story. "They make me sound like a freak," he said. "None of that stuff is true." Because of such adverse publicity, Michael's tour had a shaky start. Michael thought the act still needed work, but he had no choice but to begin the schedule. The dates were set. Therefore, in September 1987, he reluctantly began what would end up being an exhausting 18-month-long world tour. "Wherever we play," Michael said, and his crew members would yell while clapping their hands and stomping their feet just before hitting the stage, "It's got to be funky." After a successful kickoff in Japan, where he was dubbed Typhoon Michael and grossed $20 million, Michael had problems in Australia. Ticket sales proved low. Foreign newspapers alleged into that Michael Jacko, Monkier, and the Aussies thought he was a head case. He's given the world a gift, his talent, complained his former sister-in-law, Anna Jackson, and in return, the world tries to crucify him. While Michael was on tour, he wrote a letter to People and asked that it be published. He wanted to make known his feelings about the adverse publicity he received of late. In odd writing style, no margins, no annotation, and childlike penmanship, Michael wrote, like the old Indian proverb says, "Do not judge a man until you've walked 2 moons in his moccasins." Since people don't know me, that's why they write such things and such, most as not true. I cry very often because it hurts, and I worry about the children. All my children all over the world, I live for them. If a man could say nothing against a character but what he can prove, his story could not be written. Animals strike not from malice, but because they want to live. It is the same with those who criticize. They desire our blood, not our pain. But still, I must achieve. I must seek truth in all things. I must endure for the power I was sent forth for the world, for the children. But have mercy, for I've been bleeding a long time now. MJ. "I'm not sure I even understand this layer," Frantaleo said to an associate after it was published in the magazine as a cover story. "If you read it carefully, it doesn't make sense. They desire our blood, not our pain. Does that mean?" The associates studied the letter again. "You know, it's not really about the letter," he told Frank. "It's about what it says about Michael. He's losing it. The man is losing it. Can you see that?" Frank began to shake his head in despair. "Jesus Christ," he exclaimed. "What have we done? What's going on with this kid? What the is going on with this kid?"